Courageous love now. Courageous love now. Courageous love now. Welcome, lovely listeners and viewers. It's Lara Helena here, speaking to the lovely Elizabeth Hales on Courageous Love Now as we sow some more seeds of hope. And I would love to introduce Liz as first and foremost a dear friend of mine, but she is also an amazing actress. She is a super pro voiceover artist of many genres. She is a writer. She is a creator of many kinds. She's a boxer. She's a dancer. She's a weightlifter.
What?
And she's a powerhouse goddess human woman on this earth that is a beacon of light for me, and I know for many, but I can only speak for myself. And I'm so excited to just share an hour with you, beautiful Liz, and introduce you to the world that may stop by and listen to my little podcast.
Sounds like a fun way to spend an hour. Thank you for having me, Lara. So fun.
Absolutely. So, welcome to the show. And as I have shared with you, of course, you know a bit about it and have listened. And I mean, diving in, I know you as someone who is always staying in the light of positivity and connected deeply to your creativity. And you really are and have been an example for me, certainly in the last year when times have been a struggle and many buttons are being pushed on many levels. And I can always pop over to your Instagram page and see and feel your creativity, whether it's a little photo session or a project you're working on or a voiceover job you booked. And it's just really a light. And I would just love to hear anything you feel like you would like to share on that topic as far as like how this last year has been for you and how you've kind of continued to stay focused on your art and your craft.
Wow, that's a big there's that's a
And we
big
both go for the
question.
hair.
I know. I was like, ah.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I know that millions of people have struggled through last year, and I have empathy and sympathy because I've been in shoes where life is truly a struggle. But I feel last 2020, I had two choices. I can either go into the depths of despair, or I can choose to be in control of what I have control over. And
Mm,
that was a mindset of, this is our situation that we have in this world. So I am going to make the best I can of this time that we have at home ish. So I did
mm.
get creative. Um, Thankfully, I have a partner, a husband, Brady Hales, who is also, to me, a beacon of light and inspiration and positivity. And so it helped to have somebody to be locked down with
Yeah.
the whole time. But for me, I was used to, like yourself, going to classes, being involved in workshops, meeting up with people weekly, um, and all that got shut down. So
Mhm.
I, I chose to do a couple of things. For voiceover, I have honestly been in quarantine for voiceover for 10 years now. I have my own studio, I have my own booth, and so that never stopped. Voiceover,
Mhm.
I think, has really grown and blossomed, and people have jumped on the voiceover bandwagon because it's what you do at home. And so
Mhm.
I was able to continue with my work. I was able to continue um, with previous clients that came back and needed voiceover. But I reached out to a lot of voiceover clients that I've had in the past and just said, just thinking of you, just wanted to say hi. So I not only reached out through voiceover, but I also reached out through people that I worked with in the past through on camera, through the on camera world and film,
Mhm.
and reached out to those people just saying, just thinking of you, just wanted to say hi. And so I think that was the thing for me, was reaching out to people, just
Mhm.
making sure that you know, they're not alone
Mhm.
and letting them know
Yeah.
that there's someone who's thinking about them. Um, Something else that I did a lot too was I utilized my living room to work out and did a lot of body weight exercises, got a bike before they all sold out. And I feel for my mental sanity, I need to have that connection to my body, of
Mhm.
moving, of exercising, of also meditating, and lots of meditation sessions of just sitting there and just being with myself, letting
Mhm.
random thoughts, judging thoughts, all mad thoughts just come and go, and just to be present with myself. But another fun thing that I started doing too, the hair, I let my hair grow, uh, was something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, was put together a one woman show. And I had chatted with you a bit about that. But
Mhm.
for me, I had found a I had found a writer who wrote a one woman show called Grounded, which I feel is very topical for the situation in 2020. But
Mm.
Grounded is about a fighter pilot woman who gets pregnant and finds herself being grounded, flying drones instead. And it's a very strong, female driven one woman show that scares the crap out of me because it's just me talking the whole time.
Mhm.
I reached out to a previous voiceover coach and friend, and she was interested in directing it. And so during all last year, starting in April, had rehearsals with her once a week. And so
Wow.
that connecting via Zoom was also positive in our rehearsals. And
Yeah.
now we are still rehearsing in February because it's just been once a week, but we're getting ready. So when theaters open, we're
Yeah.
able to, put it on its feet, and not be grounded. But I think also too, what helped me through last year was connecting to others, connecting to my art, connecting to my body, but also connecting to a higher power. I believe in a God. I believe in a God who is all loving, and
Mhm.
that's just where I come from, and my personal belief. But connecting to that higher source that just gives me hope, gives me
Yeah.
understanding, gives me peace,
Mhm.
and that there's a reason why this is all happening. There's a reason why there's a global pandemic. Um,
Mhm.
and I feel that a lot of that reason was for me to grow as an individual and to me to overcome um, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of questioning, why am I still in this career field? And so connecting to my higher power is also what helped
Mm.
make it through the pandemic. So I
Mm.
hope I answered your question. I kind of felt like I was
Wow.
all over the
Yeah.
place, but
No, no, that was like very rich and multi-leveled, and that's exactly, of course, as it should be, with all the things that you're connected to and the reality that you're living. And I mean, I'm curious in just, hearing you talk about, of course, this connection to your art and, writing, directing, creating, and also that spiritual path. How do you find that there is a direct link between your creativity and your spiritual connection, whether that be something you're thinking towards or something you're feeling inside?
Hmm. Let's see if I can answer your question clearly. I do. I do believe that there is a direct link to
Mhm,
spirituality and towards creativity. Um,
mhm,
just to take you back about, I want to say 12 years ago, I was in a job teaching elementary school. I was extremely unhappy and not fulfilled as an artist. And through many career changes and then finally voiceover, Brady, my husband, had found a random book at the library that was being sold for $1 and
mhm.
called Acting from a Spiritual Perspective. And
Hmm.
I would have to find out who the author is. I have it downstairs. It's a green book, and it's a journal workbook working
Mhm.
through your connection to your art through your higher power, whoever that is for you.
Wow. Hmm.
And I did a lot of journaling, a lot of working through my beliefs and my limited beliefs about, that was a crow.
Hello. that
Hello.
that was awesome.
Windows, sorry, windows open. I
Mm.
worked through, I know. What
It's
does the crow
maybe
mean?
Odin. Odin is visiting,
Maybe.
in the Viking gods.
Yeah, I believe, I used to think that being an actor, being an artist was selfish and
Mm,
I had these limited beliefs of I'm doing it to make money, I'm doing it to have fame, I'm doing it for all the wrong reasons, which
mhm,
when I dug underneath all that, I recognized that for me, God is a creator. For me, God created everything that we have. And again, you can insert, higher power for that word God. But to me, I felt like if God is the creator of these beautiful flowers, this beautiful earth, these beautiful days, these beautiful friends, then why am I not, why am I feeling guilty for being a creator of my
mm.
art? And
Beautiful.
so
Yeah.
I embrace that, and I embrace that. No, I have a purpose, and my purpose is to share. My purpose is to
Mm,
share stories
mm,
that uplift and inspire, and that are specifically women driven.
mm,
And there are so many beautiful, so
mm,
many unknown stories of women of all diverse backgrounds that need to be told and shared. And I don't even know what those are out there, but I just knew that that's my purpose. That's my voice, is to want to
mm,
share those, whether it's finding the story and creating it or putting it into a screenplay and then finding somebody else to play the roles, or for me to be in them myself. Um, that's what I felt like my purpose was. And so
mm.
after going through this Acting from a Spiritual Perspective book, it then cracked open another book called The Artist's Journey by Julia
Yes.
Cameron. And I
Mm,
think you are familiar with that. And
mhm,
that book, um, by doing morning pages every single day and just
mhm,
writing brain drain, doing artist states, finding synchronicities, these are all little parts and sections in her book,
mhm,
really helped me to embrace being an actor and being an artist and allowing your higher power, or to allow God to work through me
mhm.
to share these stories and to share my voice. And I'm still, here I am, February 8th, still finding what those stories are,
Yeah.
and still finding where that all fits together. But I wake up and I think I do have a purpose as an
Mhm.
artist.
Yeah.
And I do have a purpose can help push me through those cloudy days and those days of
Mm.
self-doubt and those days of I'm not good enough, I'm not blah, 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 all those negative limiting self beliefs.
Yeah.
Having that strong purpose and
Mm.
knowing that I have someone who watches over me and is very aware of my dreams and my desires, he helps. And I've seen
Mm.
it time and time again. I've seen his hand in my work
Mm.
over and over again, especially um, in the people that he sends my way. And so you are definitely part of that,
Mm.
Lara. You are part of that journey for me. And I feel
Mm.
like we've been connected.
Hmm.
So,
Very, very
synchronicity or
much
not,
so.
yeah.
Beautiful sister. Ah! Oh, I mean, hmm,
That
there's
answer
so
your
much. Oh, like triple fold.
question? Okay,
Wow.
okay.
So beautiful. And and I think for me, and of course I resonate so much with that. And of course, of course, why I would want to have you on my show, because I do resonate with you at such a level of, we have different names and backgrounds and narratives and things, but there's something that is unnamed that
Mm,
unites us. And we can
right.
call it our art, we can call it love, we can call it our source and our spirituality. But as I personally see it, I feel like we artists are vessels,
Mhm.
and we channel in light, we channel in love, we channel in the creative source. And as you said, God is a creator, source is a creator, however you see it or
Right.
define it, is creation. And when we are truly in tune with our vessel, that
Yeah.
language, whatever is our, whether it's writing or acting or dancing or singing, etc., if we're really in tune with it, it comes through. And
Yeah.
I mean, I ask you that question because for me, I think over the course of like the last 5, 6 years, I mean, I've always been a spiritual person. I know that like dance was my first big creative love. I didn't start until I was 14. And going into that, it was a savior to me. Like the expression of dance and what it became to me was deeply spiritual. And I didn't really understand it, but I looked back and I realized how it saved me from going down a lot of really negative paths in high school and drugs and alcohol and addiction, because I came from a family of that kind of background. So, and then of course, evolving my spiritual life, which I also discovered at a very young age and didn't quite understand it, and started to unpack all that throughout my life and have unpacked many different layers of it.
Right.
Um, that the more in tune I was with my spiritual journey, and the more that I worked on my craft, the more that they merged, and the more that I would have spiritual moments in my art, or or etc., right? So like they were kind of like really weaving into each other. And as you said, that beautiful word purpose, I think that that's like the next big thing, because as analogy I used in an earlier podcast, being a gardener, the best thing about like the flourishment of your garden is when people come and enjoy the smell of the flowers and eating the fruits, and the enjoyment of what you get out of offering and being of service to that creation to others, right? And I completely understand, because I did go through, I remember when I first started teaching yoga as a dancer and then going into yoga, and I was kind of at the end of a class, like it was almost like I was waiting for an applause. It was like, oh, I'm the teacher, I got finished. And then when I would get the feedback from students, like, oh, that was an amazing class, or oh, this or that, it like fed me, right? And then later I started to look at that and realized I'm getting a stroke to my ego, but this should be something that I don't need because I just want to be a vessel of giving something to others. So that transition started like in my 30s and my late 30s, where I really started to understand how I received a lot of love being a performer. And I also lacked a lot of love as a human being throughout my younger years. So it was like filling up a pot for me. And
Mm,
then I started to like use the spirituality when it started to merge. I realized, oh, this has nothing to do with me. I'm just the vessel. And if I get out of my own way, then the art and
right.
the truth can just move through me, and I can be of service to passing that on and inspire someone, or whatever it is for somebody. Right.
Right.
And of course, over the last year, the journey of creating a podcast, because I was like you, didn't have a way to really be an outlet of something that I was like, okay, I want to have interaction. I want to feel connected to something bigger than myself, an art form, which I'm now understanding that podcasting is an art form. It's like, this is amazing. I'm connecting, I'm sharing, I'm inspiring. Yeah. So I thank you for that testimony and share. And I mean, I knew some of it, but not completely. And I'd love to know, what was your first creative love? When did you start to, besides acting? I mean, was it dance or writing? Or I know like you come from a family that loves I don't want to say, I wanted to say ancient cars, antique cars, and you also love like antique clothing and things. So you have a lot of different passions that are like linked to creativity. I'd love to know, like, was that something that was kind of birthed through your own family dynamic, or was it something very individual to you? Or
That's a great question, Lara, about, antique cars being an outlet of creativity. My dad, I think I've told you, my dad, when he was
Mhm.
14 years old, got his first car, and it was a 1914 Dodge.
Wow.
And he joined a car club and became involved with touring his car. You could drive, I mean, this is back in the 50s, so he, was still
Mhm.
able to drive, maybe illegally, legally. Um, but he drove this car, and then that car, he morphed into other cars and purchased other cars and sold cars. And his involvement in this car club, he would get dressed up, and he would wear the golf cap and the bow tie, and
Right.
everybody else would do too, because they were preserving, and I think this goes back to some of my purpose, they were
Mhm.
preserving people's history and
Right.
the preservation of how travel has gone from horse and buggy, or horses,
Mhm.
horse and buggy, to a, a steam type car called a Stanley steamer, to a gas driven car. Like, that
Mhm.
whole history is fascinating. And so
Mhm.
um, I came along, and instantly I was put into a Model T and still going on car tours. My mom would dress up, my dad would dress up, and I would even dress up. So I guess you could say that was my first. I'd never really thought about it that way, but that was my first love of an art form, to where I felt I was,
Mm.
again, not as a baby, but as I grew up in the antique
Right.
car hobby, I grew up dressing up and living, maybe living in the past, preserving in the past
Mhm.
somebody else's story that I
Right.
unintentionally didn't know I was doing. And
Right.
then I fell in love with specific eras of clothing, specifically Edwardian, why people wore what they wore. Why would a more wealthier person wear something different than somebody who is less wealthy? I think that too is part of, I guess that is a bit of storytelling. But aside
Mhm.
from the antique car hobby, my first love was singing. I
Wow.
started singing in the Panther Pride chorus in first grade. And I remember singing at the top of my lungs and just being so proud to sing. And I had
Wow.
sung ever since first grade all the way up through college. I sung every year
Wow.
in some kind of a choir. And I didn't really realize that until just some
I
time
didn't
ago,
know that. That's
that
amazing.
I never thought that I had. I feel like one of my limiting self beliefs is that I don't have a solo voice. I am purely a
Mm.
choral voice. I blend in well, but that is a something over the past time that I've been working through, is that I do have a solo voice. I do have my own voice, and
Mhm.
just need to embrace it, and I need to get back into singing, whatever way that
Mm.
is. I was gifted
Mm.
a ukulele for Christmas, so I need to learn
Yay!
how to we
We
could do
should
a
do a
duet.
duet together. Yeah.
Let's do a duet here. Here's
Oh,
my
I love
ukulele.
it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I so I need to embrace that new art form, but also bring back my singing, because I love singing. I love
Mm.
singing. So that's my first art
Wow.
form. And I would say in high school. High school was the first time where I realized that there is a spirituality about singing and about music.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we had the chance to perform at several theater areas. I was part of a performing choral group, and just recognizing how I felt when I sang
Mhm.
connected me on a different pathway, or different path, different spiritual connection that I would never
Completely.
feel if I had not sung. So,
Yeah.
and then one other, let me just add on. I went to
Yeah.
Carnegie Hall right when 9/11 happened.
Oh,
That
wow.
happened September 11th. And then my choral group in college, we had a choir tour of our performing group that went to Carnegie Hall, and we went and sung at Ground Zero. And this was
Mm,
September, like 5 months after, right?
wow.
And singing at Carnegie Hall and singing at Ground Zero,
Yeah.
there was a feeling that you can't deny that there was a
Yeah.
some kind of a spiritual feeling there of
Yeah.
mourning, of loss, of that music is the healer
Mm,
and has the
hmm.
capability of healing. So
Mm,
anyway, there's that long-winded
totally.
answer.
Yeah, no,
You,
it's
what's your
beautiful.
first
I mean, if we think that we are all vibration, right? I mean, everything is vibration, and what we emit and who we are and how we can know that as soon as we walk into a room that we know who we want to talk to or who we want to connect with, and or who's going to be our instant soul sister like you. And I think that, yeah, sound is, it's so powerful, and it's, of course, it goes beyond word and expression. And of course, as a dancer, what is my biggest inspiration is like an amazing piece of music to dance to, because I'm feeding off the vibration of the music, or or the score of a movie, right? What would a movie be without an amazing score? Like, I know I've watched those things where they turn off the music and you watch like these epic scenes. It's so different without the music there, right? So I completely follow you that music is a spiritual source for sure, and connected to. And when you
Right,
can actually make it be, come out of your own body and your own instrument, physically, or the one you're holding in your hand,
right,
even
exactly.
even better. So
Yeah.
yeah, oh,
How is your
that's
ukulele
amazing.
coming along?
I of course recently just got back from Europe, so I wanted to take it with me on this trip, and we were a little nervous because we were already over baggage. So I didn't leave it. And at the airport, when I realized she didn't even ask or look at the carry-on, I was like, I could have brought my ukulele. So I didn't have it for almost 2 months. So I am diving back in. But yes, I did write my first song. So I created all the chords and everything. And I mean, I'd written the song a while back and I had the melody in my head. So I was just like, okay, I have to create this now. And so I did it. So now I just have to like really learn how to play it where I'm not constantly having to look down where my fingers
You're
are.
so great, Lara.
So yeah, so it's very fun. But yeah, I mean, you know, where to transfer this to. Um, I would love to, hmm, diving into seeds of hope.
Mm,
If you, like, you were a teacher of kindergarten students, and if you were talking to someone who would not look at themselves as being artistically inclined, because I think a lot of people think, oh no, I could never do that. I'm not an artist, or, I'm an accountant, or I'm this, or I'm that. What would be like your words of wisdom to give hope to those that would love to dance or sing or play an instrument, but have never gone down that pathway?
mm. Wow, that's a really tough question. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Um, I do have people in my life that I'm thinking of right now that definitely are very left-brained and are
Mhm,
very left brain, meaning just very analytical, don't have any, they're very structured, and there's not the typical. So when you think of an artist, the typical is you're an actor or a dancer or a singer or a writer or a poet or a musician, or I mean, there's so many different forms of art. But what would
mm,
I say? Let's see. I have a friend who I will leave his name for anonymity, but we'll call him Frank.
mhm,
Um, I would say Frank, I kind of already have told him this too, that there are simple gifts um, that an artist has, whether it doesn't matter what the art form is, but those gifts of listening and the gifts of
Mm,
seeing and the gifts of being able to analyze and understand and empathize or sympathize, I think are also a type of an art form.
mm,
I've never really thought of it that way, but just as a dancer, as a singer, as an actor, you have to listen and you
mhm,
have to take in what somebody else is saying. You have to be aware of the person you're dancing next to. You have to feel. Um,
mhm,
I would say, Frank, you are an artist. You're an artist in your own way because you have the ability to listen to people and to give
mm,
your wise beyond years experience to a situation. I think
mm,
that is a way, that is an art form, is to listen and to,
mm,
I think appreciation is also a type of an art form where you can
mm.
appreciate what somebody else does, that even though you might not be able to do it yourself, you can appreciate and be inspired and uplifted by
Yeah.
watching.
Mhm,
Maybe that's a little woo woo and stretching
mm.
the
Not at all.
stretching
Not at
what
all.
I'm trying to answer, but I think even if you're not the artist performing, you can be an artist in taking in
Mhm,
and appreciating as well.
mhm.
So, but I think everybody has some kind of a gift. I think everybody does sense,
Absolutely.
but
It's interesting is that somebody said to me years ago, I had done a dance performance and it was someone who was not a quote unquote artist as we understand it. And he said, "You're such a mathematician." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Your understanding of space and time and tempo and, like kind of breaking down what I was as a dancer, as a mathematician." And I'm somebody who was like, I got to algebra and I was like, I'm good,
yeah,
like, but
yeah,
at the same time, I'm a problem solver and I'm a really good problem solver. I love to like, challenges seem to just attract themselves to me because I'm like, let me get this one undone, take this one apart. Right?
totally,
But I
totally,
think that but I think that that is, as you said, it's like every in our modern day, we can see from a mainstream perspective because the arts have now become so much about how many followers and how popular we are and how much money you're going to make and you're going to be in a celebrity, and hence why you had that like rejection of like, oh, I don't know if I want to go into that because it's so ego based. But I think, as you said, if we go back to the Renaissance and what really the Renaissance and Renaissances have been throughout history. There are time when the artists, the healers, the thinkers, the philosophers, the people that were really pushing the edge of something and trying to find a new way to look at a new paradigm, right? And I think that that for me is so much about what I feel personally, what has happened over the course of the last year, because we've been forced into a situation that is beyond our comfort zone, maybe way too comfortable. We can get really lazy with it. Or we can say, okay, how now I'm in a quote unquote cell, I'm locked down, and you want to take all these pleasures and these opportunities away from me that I know as my avenues in order to connect and create. So, how can I go in deeper to my spiritual self and
right,
find that connection? And as you said beautifully, and I think empathy, as you said, is like if we can have empathy, which is where courageous love comes from, because I think courageous love truly is empathy and compassion, because if we can come and embody that for ourselves and also embody that for other human beings with all the turmoil and the strife that's going on in the world, if we can cultivate that, that is the biggest and the most precious art form that we can ever know as a human being. But I mean, hmm, when I think of mm, those that have inspired me throughout history and prophets and leaders and speakers that lit me up when I heard speeches or watched movies about them or read books about them. And I thought, I want to be like them, you know, and they were the Shakers. They were
yeah,
the ones that said, "Hey, there's another way we could look at this." And I'm going to put my foot down and say, "No, let's open up another avenue as opposed to going down this way of choosing fear and judgment and hate and anger. And let's choose love and connection and empathy and compassion.
Mm,
And they, for me, like,
mm,
they're the ones who have like cultivated hope in our world and throughout our history. And a lot of them have been artists or philosophers or some way connected to source. I mean, when I think of most of them, they were connected to source and they were connected to some form of art, whether it was just speaking to the masses or writing or,
exactly.
yeah. And yeah, I think you touched on it beautifully because we all have that. And that's, I mean, courageous love now is about having the courage to truly drop into love,
Hmm. Yeah,
empathy,
empathy.
compassion, because all of those encompass. And love is creation itself.
Exactly.
Love is source. Love is God. And if we can connect with our creativity, then we are connecting with our source. And if
Yeah,
we can give our love, our creativity, then
you're
we
fulfilling your
are
purpose.
fulfilling our purpose. Exactly.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think that's beautifully put, Laura. That's
Hmm.
you are
Yeah.
absolutely that. You are ever since I met you. Gosh, it's been at least 2 years now that I've known you, but really started to get to know you about a year and a half ago. You are that complete, you are love. You are
Hmm.
completely, you embody love in your actions, in your words, and and I love your empathy that you want to
Hmm.
connect to people. You want to understand why people do what they do and understand not just what's here in front of us, but the bigger picture. And I love and am inspired by that
Hmm.
within you.
Hmm. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
It's such a as a storyteller, I didn't dive into acting and storytelling until much later in my journey, but I feel like dance and all the other art forms were somewhat telling stories. And I think my biggest art has been living the stories that I have
Mhm. For sure.
decided to like go and live throughout my life. I mean, I think I talked about that in my very first podcast about I felt so many times like I was playing all these characters. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, I would dress up in certain outfits, and this is my Peter Pan outfit, or this is my sunshine outfit. And I'd have my hair a certain way, and it would be like I'd have themed outfits for the day, this is my safari outfit. And
You were
so I was
cosplaying
really
before it's popular.
I was totally exactly right. But that was, I mean, I can definitely feel that the imagination was already there. And of course, having lived a very unorthodox childhood, living all over the world, living on a boat, living in Hawaii and the mountains and the sea, here, there, over 3 different continents, and then of course, in my young adulthood, going off to Europe and traveling in Australia and outback and going, living in Europe for 13 years. I definitely can feel like, how would I even say it? There was such a fascination of humans. I truly have a love for human beings. Like, I'm so fascinated by what makes people tick, culturally,
Hmm.
age, ethnicity, everything. Like, there's so much richness there. And that, certainly being brought up with parents with kind of an open mind to like, okay, you got to choose your own path, and never indoctrinated me in any one thought.
Hmm.
And then, of course, as I said, peeled off many layers of what that was for me, and I still am. Oh my goodness. Um, but the truth in it all, when I look at all the different religious scriptures to philosophies to art itself, it truly comes down to love.
Yeah.
Just love. And what does that, and how do we access that energetically, physiologically, intellectually, like all the layers of what we are, and then unite it and connect with it in other people. And, I've had people say, you can't love everybody, and I remember thinking as a kid, like, oh, I've got so much love in me. I'm going to be able to go in a jail cell and I'll be able to turn the mindset of a mass murderer to someone whose heart will open. Like I just had these like weird fantasies of, being a healer and like wanting to spread love and to really like make that the pandemic of the planet, like a love pandemic. I mean, that's what we need right now, right?
Starting it right now with your podcast. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. But that's the goal, right? Yeah. I mean, it's such a beautiful discussion with everyone I've had so far. And you're my third interview. It's so exciting.
Thank you. Thank you.
um, but it's so fascinating to have that discussion and to feel where people that I resonate with as artists, creators, healers, all kind of have a very similar story, that there was a waking to
Mm,
something deeply spiritual in them
mhm.
that connected them with their art form.
Right.
And and I think that at least for the message that I have, because I hate to label it, right, but it's I can feel right now what we're going through is a return to that authentic state as human beings, because we're forced to get away from the material, to get away from all the feedback, whether
Right.
it's online or in person, and
Right.
to come back to our own source, which that source is connected to something, whether it be nature or, you know,
Right.
etc. Oh yeah.
It's
Mm,
beautiful.
mm.
You just said,
And how do
sorry, you
you
said,
oh no, no, go ahead.
no, go
Go
for
ahead.
it. No, go.
I
I
was
was,
going to ask you how you, with voiceover, and you said you've been doing it for 10 years, how do you feel like, because of course it's another form of storytelling, and of course you're alone most of the time, so you're not interacting with an actor on stage or another performer. How is that journey for you in on a regular basis? Do you feel like on a daily basis you're like really tapping into characters and stories, or source, or yeah, just would love to hear a little bit of your process of what voiceover is to you in this creative journey.
wow. Well,
Mm.
again, great question. You knew just what to ask today. I would say today for voiceover, it is me just reading a bunch of business jargon to get through a long form narration project that is really difficult as far as terms and
Yes.
spacing and names, and then having the bandwidth to edit my voice. So that's where voiceover is today. But
Wow.
um, some days,
Today, as in literally today,
as
or
in
in
literally today
as in
before jumping
literally
on the
today
internet.
before?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
this is
Okay.
my podcast. This was my
Yeah.
job before the podcast. Um,
Yes.
voiceover has definitely been a journey. I originally just kind of fell into voiceover because my husband was exploring, Brady was exploring voiceover. And through, again, I feel like we were guided to do this together. I had, like you, I had taught dance, I taught elementary school, and then I taught modern dance, and I taught modern dance to those with special needs, and then the elementary classroom. And then I started teaching at an international school, and I was tired of being on somebody else's schedule. And so
Mhm.
the one thing that drew me to voiceover was that I was the I was the one in control. I was the
Mhm.
one that got to create my schedule. I got to create characters. I get to create my own syllabus per se of what I want to
Mhm.
do and learn. And so, my journey did start about 10 years ago, and I took a lot of classes. I started with a coach who I trusted and put together a commercial demo. And to be honest, a lot of commercial copy is not being a character, not putting on a voice. It's just authentically speaking from
Mhm.
who you are, and your point of view is coming through the words of the script. And so there are days in voiceover now where I'm just like, okay, this is my day job, got to get through it because I'm reading a bunch of business jargon. Um,
Right.
or there are or there are other days where specifically there's a video game I've been working on, and I uh, I just have a picture, and I have a storyline, and I have lines that are given to me from somebody in Poland, and I read these lines, and this is where I get to be creative and where I really get to
Mhm.
infuse my personality. I don't have a quirky voice. That's not in my
Mhm.
wheelhouse. That's definitely in Brady's wheelhouse. and
Mhm.
other hundreds of other voice actors that I admire. But I get to be me, but I get to be me in somebody else's shoes and going through the story of sadness, of hope, of despair, of support.
Mm,
That's where I feel as a voice artist, I come alive. But I also recognize that I can take, and I need to remind myself every day, it's a choice to take a script, to read it through, to slow down, read it through, and to really get to the bottom of what the message is, and then
mhm.
connect that message to myself. And to
Right.
start with, I'm an artist, I am enough, I am worthy of being an artist. And then taking that message of, I feel this, I know what the script is about, I know what they're trying to say, and then let that voice come through. And
Mm,
that's where joy comes from in voiceover for
mhm.
me, is just really being able to connect to the real message of what they're trying to say.
Mm. And that's from everything from, as you said, like a product to a character to technical jargon.
Yeah, there's a way to
Yeah.
connect in there.
Yes, there's a way to connect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
again going back to what you've been talking about with art, is truly connection with others, connection to your source. And then when you're connected to your source, you're fulfilling your purpose. So
Mm.
again, art is in many different forms and fashions. So
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't, did I answer
Amazing.
my question? I don't even
Yeah,
remember what your question
completely,
was.
completely. Can you share what's like maybe one of your top one or two voice jobs you've ever done?
Oh gosh, I don't have any huge ones that um
That just were really pleasure filled or you really enjoyed the character or I don't know.
um in the short 10 years that I've been doing this, I would say Devil May Cry was a video game I worked on, where
Mhm.
I got to sing and I got to screech and be a character named Artemis. And she was this six-breasted,
Oh my
long
gosh.
mermaid body that
I love it.
main character or the playable character goes through. And of course, I
Mhm.
die. But it was really enjoyable to be sitting, because Devil May Cry is done by Capcom. And it was lovely to be in the booth looking through the window at six Japanese people, members of the team, and they don't speak my language and I don't speak their language. But when you see the smile on their faces and their nods and the smiles, you know that it was okay.
Yes.
My
Of the
crazy,
character
squeaky,
that you
screechy
were
voice.
manifesting. Yeah.
So that was kind of a highlight. Um,
Mm.
Thinking, there's every single day is different, Lara. I can't even. What comes to mind? Another. Goodness. I did a campaign for Meaningful Beauty, which was Cindy Crawford's
Mhm.
skincare,
Mhm.
and I was the brand voice for a bit of time. They go through a lot of people and change
Mhm.
their products and change their voices, but
Beautiful.
it was a lovely experience working with different creatives, and then being here in LA and being able to record from my home studio and then flying back to Utah where I'm from and then having a session to do there. So go find a recording
Mhm.
studio in Utah to record. And then that was just a lovely collaborative experience on
Mm.
on all boards, all around. And
Yeah.
how that's the thing about voiceover too, is that people in voiceover are generally very loving and very open
Mm.
and very supportive. And
Mm.
so if you need to find a studio in another city, they will help you find another studio. It
Beautiful.
just a
Yeah.
collaborative process. Yeah.
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 And what
How's your
about
voiceover journey
as
going?
oh, well, that's another topic. No.
Okay.
No, it's going good. I mean, I'm auditioning and having fun and
Mm,
exploring and learning and I'm still at the very, I would say, I don't know, elementary level, intermediate level. I mean, I want to say I'm a professional voiceover artist, but as far as like how many years I've been doing it and for how long and all of that. But I'm really enjoying it. And I know that there's so much to learn. I mean, I would love to like evolve more in animation, but I have not yet really gone
yeah.
down that path yet. I just think it's fascinating. So it's
for
still
sure.
to be discovered more.
The
But I
beauty,
wanted to ask you is, oh,
I
sorry, go ahead.
was gonna say, in the beauty of voiceovers, it doesn't matter what age you are, it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
you look like, that you know, you can have a career until you pass
Mm,
on. And I can't
yeah.
remember the name. Of course, it's not coming to me, but um, there was a voice actress who literally was recording all the way up until her late 90s until she passed away.
Wow.
Anyway, what's her name? Anyway, it'll come to me.
Okay.
But you were going to ask, what were
No,
you?
I was going to ask you as far as an actor and on stage or film, what was one of your, I don't know, favorite scripts or roles that you had a chance to channel, get into, experience?
Oh, there's a couple. One that comes to mind was I got to play Belle in Beauty and the Beast when I was living
Mm,
in Okinawa, Japan, and I played on base. My husband Brady was in the military in the Air Force, and so they had a wonderful theater company that
mm,
worked on the Kadena, one of the bases, or one of
mhm,
the military bases. Um, and so the Pacific Okinawan players put on Beauty and the Beast, and I got to be Belle. And
mm,
there's nothing like being part of, and I know professional Broadway talent go through this and experience this every day and during rehearsal, but for me, I felt like this was my closest to Broadway or even off Broadway, was being able to perform for a large audience every night with a beautiful orchestra that was playing
mhm.
live, and we had
Wow.
professional costumes, and it was just a delightful experience to bring to life one of my childhood heroes, as
Mm,
Belle. Um,
mm,
Smart and feisty and goes for what she wants and isn't afraid to face
yeah,
her fears, and is well read, and then got to play that. So just
yeah.
being in that moment with that script, and that was a lovely experience.
Mm.
Um,
And live performances, there's
and
something
live,
very special about it for
uh,
sure, with music and yeah.
yeah, there's
Wow.
nothing compares to a live audience with a live
Mm,
performance. And then something else that was just most recently is I wrote a little short called Disclosure.
mhm,
And I it was my first time really producing and writing and creating something for myself. And
mhm,
it's just a simple premise of a woman who ends up having a child, and she let her the person doesn't let the person know whose child it is until the very end, and he kicks her
mhm,
out. And anyway, it's just a very simple story, but I think the joy in it for me came from creating something from nothing,
mhm,
utilizing the resources that I had, using
mhm,
vintage vehicles, using my vintage clothing, um, reaching out to locations and crew, all people that I have worked with, and bringing together all my favorite things,
mm,
and making a piece of work, piece of art. And that
yeah.
was really enjoyable because I had control. It was all mine. And even though I say control because I was the one that wasn't waiting to be chosen to be a part of a project. I
Right,
chose this project, and I
right.
chose my people, and I chose everything. And then when we were filming, of course, the artistic process, as
Mhm,
you know your lines, but you just kind of let everything else flow.
yeah.
And I feel like we came up with a beautiful end product that I was able to submit to a
Mm,
couple film festivals, and it won best drama short at the Oregon Short Film Festival. And it was a little like, I don't care about
ooh,
winning anything, but it was just
mhm,
the artistic process of working and
of
collaborating
course.
with other creatives.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, those are
Oh,
that's
that's
off the top of my
beautiful.
head.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Oh, so nice. Yeah, I think, right. I mean, having very little, but some experience producing film, I've done a lot of production as far as dance and production shows over the years, but um, there is definitely something very unique in that. I guess you would say, birthing your own creation at all those levels, because film does take such a big team. It's not like I'm just going to choreograph a solo, right? It's just you and the music. You're actually,
Right.
collaborating, and that whole process of collaboration at every level, the pre, the during, and the post production is a journey, and is so much to learn, and so much to like take from, and the even just the connections with other people. So I totally get it. It's very
Yeah.
empowering.
Yeah,
For
yeah, for
sure.
sure. And a huge, like you said, a big learning experience of what to do next time.
Yeah,
What works,
yeah,
what doesn't work.
totally.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, and I know I follow you on Instagram, and you have mentioned it a number of times, and even to me, is your boxing journey. And as someone who like is very connected to their body, who I find very refined and an elegant, you're such an elegant woman, you're very professional. I think to someone who didn't know you, they would never see you as a boxer, right? And I would love to hear your journey of like what got you to go into doing that. And of course, now you have a stunt reel, and you're going to do a boxing reel eventually. And, I just love to hear a little bit about that journey, because I think it's very beautifully empowering. And I have talked to people who have women who have studied fighting or self-defense, and all of them have very beautiful message of feeling empowered in different ways, whether it be just like knowing how to defend yourself against danger, to really knowing the power of your own body, right? So yeah, so just love to hear about that.
That's that's a great, wow. Great question. Didn't expect you to ask about that. I, like you, love to move my body in so many different ways. And I, I danced clear from when I was 3 all the way up till when I was in college, and got a dance minor, and was involved in community theater after that. But then after teaching elementary school and teaching dance to other people, I
Yeah.
recognized that I don't, let me see, how am I trying to say this? There are so many ways to move and so many ways to feel joy in your body. And I thought the dance was
Hmm.
the only way to do that. But I
Hmm.
slowly experienced other ways of moving, and I started weightlifting, and I started a little bit of the bodybuilding, and I started doing a bit of running, which running is still not my favorite, but that is another way
Hmm.
of moving and connecting with your body and connecting with your mind and your heart. Um, I, I started tap dancing when I moved to Los Angeles, and that was another way of connecting my mind to my body.
Hmm.
And then we went to, through inspiration, we found a gym called Pharaohs. And Pharaohs, big shout out to Pete and Emily. They
Hmm.
are the crafters uh, of all their programs, and they had so many things to offer, not just weightlifting and not just yoga or Pilates, but I learned how to spin. I had never been in a spinning class and never had learned to move that way. I mean,
Hmm.
I love riding bike, but spin is a totally different class, and there's choreography
Very.
involved. And so I loved it. Um,
Hmm.
I tried several other classes, but one class that I was so excited to try was just boxing, because the idea of hitting something just feels empowering. The idea of hitting something that is okay to hit, that, I don't
Hmm.
believe in hitting people. I don't believe,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Um,
Yes.
there was just something that was just calling to me that you need to learn how to do this. And of course,
Yeah.
in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, you can create a boxing reel, and this would be great for your acting. But that pushed aside, I jumped in, and I quickly learned how my body and my brain, they fight each other, and how my body is exhausted, but my brain keeps saying, you've got this, you can do this. And so boxing has
Hmm.
taught me to push me further that I can go further than I ever thought that I could go, that I could punch
Wow.
harder, that I can use my entire body. I can use my hips. I can use my torso. I can use everything to have a good punch. Boxing is also choreography. And so I picked it
Hmm.
up pretty fast with all the combinations, all the different
Yeah.
kinds of movements, with the bag, the body bag, the water bag, the mitts. There's so many different options for boxing that you just don't
Wow.
get bored. But what really,
Yeah.
really sealed it for me was, doing a fight. It was called a fight class, and it was about, I want to say, 5 weeks long. and Pete taught it, who's the owner, and he's a wonderful boxer. And we learned how to build a 3-minute fight in the ring
Mhm.
with an opponent. And you're wearing your
Mhm.
boxing mask and you're wearing your guard. And just being able to be in the ring with somebody who thankfully was my size and my shape, similarly
Mhm.
paired,
Mhm.
that I I can have control over how I move, how I hit somebody, how I
Yeah.
duck somebody, how I can use the skills that I have learned to avoid being hit or to,
Mhm.
I guess, in general, to protect myself. And
Mhm.
that is a very empowering thing, is that I
Yeah.
can protect myself with the skills I learned in boxing. And I know there's so many other kinds of martial arts that I would love to
Mhm.
learn, but
Mhm.
I feel like boxing for me just gave me confidence in a new skill and
Mhm.
helped me to know that if I have a bad day, I can just put on my gloves and I can go punch a bag.
Mhm.
If I am having a wonderful day, I can go celebrate and I can go punch a bag.
Right.
I just it's the best workout. You drip sweat, um, and yeah.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm even answering your questions, but I do
No,
find
it's
it ironic.
fantastic.
I do find it ironic that I do love I do love dressing up. I mean, you'll see, I find Instagram to be a creative outlet, and I do
Mhm.
have pictures that are more elegant, but I find that every person has the flip side.
Mhm.
There's always not a light and a dark, but I mean, there is a light and a dark,
The
but there's always a there's always the dichotomy, right? You can be sweet, but
contrast.
you can also be the
Mhm.
contrast. You can be super sweet, but
Mhm.
you can also be super bitchy.
Mhm.
You can own both of those. And so I
Mhm.
feel like that's how boxing is for me, is that I can be
Mm.
sensitive and sweet and kind and empathetic, but yet I also have the other side of I am the protector and I am going to stand up. I am going to be strong and I can also be weak, but find strength through my weakness. Um, I just love that. I love, again, if you going back to your
Mm.
word, just empowerment. I feel
Yeah.
strong when I box, and that's why I do it. And I miss being able to be inside a real
Yeah.
boxing
Ring.
studio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't
I'm as my friend said to me as a dancer years ago, you're a powerful mathematician. Right? I mean, like
right.
it's a whole other learning of how to, as you said, it's like the calculation of how to move your body and timing with,
Yeah,
ducking. And this not like any martial arts is, right? It truly is an
sure.
art form to know how to, and that, like, as you said beautifully, that inner strength of your body wants to totally give out. But when your mind is in the right place and you can
Yeah,
push you then discover what can actually come out of your body that you didn't even know
yeah,
you had. And I think that
right.
like any sports champion or anyone who's gone to the Olympics or has told their story, I mean, I'm sure that they all have stories of that or running, marathons or triathlons or, where you feel like you just have nothing left, but then somehow you find the juice to go that extra amount. So it is, this and this are so connected to this, right? And I feel, and why I wanted to bring this up is because I feel you as such a powerful, empowered woman with conviction. You really, you're as you said, you're empathetic and you're kind, but at the same time you have this, like, I hate to swear, but don't fuck with me kind of energy. Like you
It's
have an energy that can come across not in a mean way, but like just in a powerful way, just in like, wow, she's a source. She is power.
mm,
And it's beautiful. So I
well,
as I said, beautiful woman. It's true. I mean, and I think that balance of knowing our own power, and I think it was only in the last couple of years that I even thought about doing, going on the gun range or going to a fight class or something that in my mind was always like, oh no, violence. I'm totally anti-violence. I'm, not gonna, I mean, I have three brothers and, my brother was in martial arts and my other ones are all like daredevil risk takers. And, I have a bonus son who is totally in love with Cobra Kai right now and everything's about karate. So, so I'm kind of like, and I can feel I have a real attraction to it. from the
Yeah.
empowerment side and also from the creative, physical. I want to learn a new technique in my body and feel that power. So I just wanted to hear your journey with that. And it's inspired me even more to want to learn.
Time to
So,
start doing some karate, some martial arts,
yeah,
some there's so
thing,
many
something.
out
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
totally, totally. Oh, my dear woman. Well, we have just come up to our hour, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I would love to invite if there's any last words you feel that you'd like to share with the listeners around any of the topics of this show or something you touched on that might still be lingering.
So many. This has
Mm,
been wonderful. Thank you, Lara, for
yeah,
having me, and thanks for asking
yeah.
important questions that I think we all need to ask ourselves about questions of what do I do when I feel hopeless?
Mm,
And what do I do when I feel like I don't have anything going for myself? Or how can I, what can I do to connect? Can I connect? I think
mm,
we all have a source, whatever that is to you. There is there is something bigger than ourselves
mm,
that believes in you and that wants you to succeed and wants you to grow because you don't always have people around you telling you that you can do something, that you're good at something, that you can do it. You have to have, and sometimes even within yourself, it's hard to say,
mhm,
I believe in me, because a lot of people don't think that they're enough. A lot of people don't have that hope for themselves. But
mm,
if you can find through meditation, through whatever it is, communicating with a friend, finding that there is somebody, there is something
mm,
higher than you, bigger than you, that is
mm,
all love and is all power and is wanting you to succeed and give and love, then find that strength because
mm,
that will support you day in and day out. And eventually, if you don't know what your purpose is, and again, I'm always making sure, I'm always refining my purpose. Am I doing the right thing? Yeah, I'm doing the right thing. Is this right? Yes. Find your
mhm,
purpose, and that helps push you through the hard times, especially this past year. Find your
mm.
purpose. So I guess that's all I have to share. I don't know.
Mm,
Thank you.
total words of wisdom from a spiritual warrior. A
Spoken from
spiritual and a creative warrior. Ah, what was that? Sorry.
well, thank
I
you.
taught.
Oh, coming from the spiritual creative warrior is yourself.
Takes one to know one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Liz, for being here. Elizabeth Hales, where can people find you if they want to know more about you or see your art or just, yeah, follow
Uh,
you?
that's very nice. Let's see. I, of course, am on Instagram as Elizabeth Hales. Um, IMDb shows some of the work that I've done, and
Mhm,
I have some fun clips that are up there, and then also elizabethhales.com, which has voiceover and on camera stuff.
mhm.
Um, as far as that, that's
Amazing.
all I am.
That's the amazing you. And thank you so much for sharing your talent and your art with the world. And maybe this podcast will give people a whole other side of you and get a taste of this deep, rich human being that you are that I feel so grateful and full of joy to know.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is
Yeah,
exciting.
of
My ever
course.
first
It is
podcast. So
exciting.
thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. Hey. Amazing. All right, guys, we'll go and have a look at elizabethhales.com and follow her and her beautiful photos on Instagram and her inspiring quotes that she always adds to them. And this is Lara Helena with Courageous Love Now as we sow more seeds of hope. Thank you for being here, and we'll be back for more. So keep on listening. Bye. Hello, all you beautiful listeners. It is that time for a little shameless self promotion. If you've enjoyed this podcast or any of the previous podcasts I have recorded, I would be so grateful if you could subscribe and rate and possibly review down below. So whatever your podcast listening app is, there is usually an area where you can leave a review of what you thought. Even just a few words can make a huge difference. And as I am new to podcasting, it will make even a bigger difference to just get the word out there and also see what you thought. Thanks so much for your support and keep on listening.